Welcome to another episode of Unleashing the Future of Work, a guide podcast. I hope you all are doing well, guide community. You're staying safe and healthy wherever you are. This lovely Friday or Friday afternoon. Today, I am joined by my own boy, Austin Belcak, who is the founder and CEO and chief career strategist, career empower, career coach, whatever you want to refer to it as, of CultivatedCulture.com, man. This guy is a mastermind, super active on platforms like LinkedIn, and he has his own website with a blog that shares all kinds of immense value that helps you take control of your career. And today I invited him on the show, man, because Austin is just a wealth of knowledge. I've been following him on LinkedIn for quite some time, and he's a wealth of knowledge on helping people really understand how do you get a job, much more what do you want to do in that job, and more importantly, how do you ensure that you thrive not only in your job but throughout your career. So with that, without further ado, I want to bring on Austin to this episode of Unleashing the Future of Work, a guide podcast. What's up, man?
Hey, Tim, happy Friday, man, or Friday, as you said.
Happy Friday, bro. I'm doing well. Well. How are you doing, man?
No complaints. I mean, all things considered, we're doing well. We're hanging in there.
Yeah. So where are you currently at, bro?
So I'm right in the New York area here. So we were talking a little bit about it before, but I lived in Manhattan for a long time. And then we made the move across the water to Jersey City like 2 years ago now.
Wow.
So we're right in the thick of it. But overall, it's pretty good. No complaints.
Yeah. So talk to me a little bit about how long have you been living in New York, Austin?
Man, since early 2014, so just over 6 years or so now, I guess. And yeah, I was in Charlotte, North Carolina before that, my first job. I knew I had to make it up to the big city, so that's what I set my sights on, and then moved up there in February 2014. I think Valentine's Day was actually when I officially moved into my first apartment in the city. Lived there for 4 years or so, 4.5 years. And then my wife and I made the jump out to Jersey. We're both from here. So we're like taking one step closer to home, but we're not ready to give up the city yet.
Yeah, man, that's powerful. So let me ask you a question, man. When was it for you? What moment for you did you realize that you wanted to build something like Cultivated Culture?
Oh man, forever. I mean, I've always wanted to kind of build my own thing and have a platform. I mean, you and I have talked a lot about the power of a personal brand, right? And what that brings you, especially, in today's world. And when we talk about the future of work, we're moving away from those traditional qualifications, those, traditional criterion, and we're moving more towards, how is this person showing up, and what do they have to offer outside of just, that standard toolbox. And so I've always, my dad was an entrepreneur. I kind of saw, he was working from home well before it was cool, or we had a global pandemic, and he was coming to my soccer games and all this other stuff, and I was like, I don't want to be tied to something where I'm stuck in an office for 40 plus hours and I have to be there every single day. And I wanted to build my thing, so that I just didn't know what my idea was, right? And I think what happens to a lot of us that want to be entrepreneurial in some capacity, we immediately go to the top. We're like, I'm going to make that next Facebook, or like, I need this idea that's going to be killer. And, after going through many failed ideas and iterations, you really don't have to do that to build something. Sharing your story, focusing on what you're good at, you can do plenty with just those things. And so for me, I tried to create a couple of apps. I tried to create an apparel company. I tried to, do this, that, and the other thing. And it all clicked for me when I ended up getting this, job at Microsoft that I've been at for 5 years now. Transitioning from, I was a new grad with a 2.58 GPA and a biology degree and a job in healthcare with like 3 months of professional experience. And so making the transition to Microsoft, that wasn't easy. A lot of people came and asked me how I did it. And that was the light bulb for me. I was like, forget the next Facebook. Let's share some of the stuff that I learned along the way. And that was, 4 years ago now. And the rest has kind of been history.
Man, that's powerful. So, man, you really, what I love about CultivatedCulture.com is that you give people the frameworks, the tips, the practical hands-on stuff that a lot of people miss. How do you suggest people find in today's day and age remote jobs, right? Now that we're living in a remote first world.
Yeah, well, the good news with what's going on now is pretty much any job that's posted is effectively remote. And I think you have a lot more. I think you have a lot more negotiating power in today's world than you might have before, because they're looking to fill that role and they're looking to bring on the best person. And if you show up and you're the best person, and maybe the job's posted in Los Angeles, but you're in Austin, Texas. If you show up and you're the best person, there's a compelling argument to be made that it doesn't really matter that you're not in LA, because nobody's going to be working from the office anyways. So I think that really the best, like the silver lining of what's going on right now is pretty much every job that's out there is remote, or you have a lot more leverage to negotiate those remote jobs. But outside of that, there's traditionally been, this is going to pass, and we'll see what the future holds in terms of how many companies stay remote and how many go back, and what the percentages look like. But traditionally, there's kind of been two ways to make this happen. There's to go after companies that are truly remote. So your companies like a Basecamp or a Zapier, those folks who say it loud and proud. We are 100% remote. We don't have like an HQ. But those tend to be really, really competitive, because those companies that's the easy route, right? And we as humans, we like to take the path of least resistance. So you Google, around for who's got the remote jobs, and those folks pop up. So the other ways that you can get in the door are one, to go find companies that do have a good culture of working remotely. Maybe the whole company isn't remote, but speaking for myself, Microsoft is, and you as well, but Microsoft tends to be pretty flexible with that setup. And so
already,
for us, on my team, my team alone we have one of our guys is up in Burlington, Vermont. Another one of our managers works in Raleigh, North Carolina. We have our leadership team in Seattle. We have pods in New York and LA. So people are all over the place working remotely. And we post a role, and like we have a role posted right now on our team, and it's posted, I think, out of New York. But we're, I think, really pretty happy to hire the best candidate regardless of where they're at. And so that was true before the pandemic. So finding those companies that have that culture and those open roles that if you go look, one of the best ways to figure this out is go look for that job title, the open role, and go find out where the HQ of the company is. So another good example of this might be like a HubSpot up in Boston. They have, their HQ is out of there. But if I go search for an account executive role, let's say, I'm going to see account execs all over the country. And to me, that's a good sign that, hey, their HQ's in Boston, but they have people in Austin, Texas, in LA, in Seattle. And so that's a good sign to me that, they're open to remote work, because those people they're not commuting to the office every day. So that's one little trick you can use to see if other people are already working remote. And if that's the case, you can establish that, you can make it happen. And then the third piece, which is the toughest, is just taking the job that you want and then negotiating work from home for yourself through, excelling at your job, one, getting the results that you want, building that track record, and then easing out the door. So saying, hey, can I just try, one day every couple of weeks, twice a month I'll work from home, and then 2 days, and then 3 days, and then slowly upping the ante over time. That was, the way to do it before all this happened. But I think people will be a little bit more open-minded, given the current climate and, moving forward with the future of work. So focusing on those companies that are able to do their stuff, from anywhere, trying to find those roles where people are currently working remotely. That's probably your best bet right now.
Man, that's a clear framework, man. Think optimize around the companies that are already embracing remote work, and then don't try to even waste your time with companies that aren't, right? And I think every company now is realizing, okay, the future is remote. We have to invest in this for our people, and especially due to the fact that right now we're still facing a public health crisis, right? So you're absolutely 110% right. I think with that, so I want to ask you, I think now more than ever, building relationships is king. Right. So what are your thoughts on how people should approach building authentic relationships online in a remote first world, man? Because a lot of people fail at that.
Man, online. What?
Yeah.
My mom would have killed me 10 years ago I'm talking to a stranger on the internet right now. She would have been disappointed. That's like our new normal though, right? So many people. I just met another guy from LinkedIn. His name's Andy Foote, and he and I have been talking back and forth about, all sorts of stuff over the last couple of years. And that was the first time we got to catch up, face to face. But that's how most of my relationships are built now. It's all online, and I don't really ever meet them, quote, in person or like this for a while. I mean, even you and I think went back and forth for a long time before we had our first, face-to-face call. Yeah. And so that's just the way it's happening. But really, relationship building, I think what's interesting about it is a lot of people know that they need to network, or they're supposed to network. They're told to network, but everybody's willing to tell them that they have to do it. Nobody's really willing to show them how to do it. And I think that makes it tough. I think that, one, building relationships is usually a big step out of a lot of people's comfort zones. And then two, you're doing something uncomfortable and you're doing it without a framework. There's nobody there to really help you through that. And that usually leads to just poor outcomes, simply because it's not easy to do something uncomfortable without a plan. No. So the best advice we can give in a couple of minutes here on a live is, first, just understanding how relationships are built. A lot of people, when we say, go network, what they start doing is they send emails to people and they basically just make an ask for a job. They're like, hey, Tim, you work at this place. I want to work there too. Here's my resume. Can you, A, give me some advice, look it over, B, refer me in, C, send it along to the right person. And that's just a really big ask right off the bat. But even if we get what we want there, like, let's just say that you were willing to do that. You're like, yeah, awesome. We've never met, but sure, I'll refer you in. How strong is that referral really going to be? Like, you don't know anything about me. We've exchanged one email. Like, that person can't really be a champion for you, go to bat for you. And at the end of the day, if you want to get hired, you really need somebody internally kind of singing your praises, being able to speak directly to what you bring to the table. And that's not going to happen unless there's a relationship there. So what you need to do is take a step back and kind of delay your gratification, and instead flip it on its head and say, look, I want to build a relationship with this person, not just because I want a job at this company, but because, they truly have stuff that's really interesting, right? If you want a job at their company and they already have one, that right there is something interesting. They already have what you want. So why don't we learn from this person? Why don't we, turn them into a referral? Why don't we aim to turn them into like a friend or a close connection or whatever it is? And the way that we do that, the crux of all relationships really boils down to giving value that's aligned with the other person's interests without the expectation of immediate reciprocity. That's like the best definition that I can come up with.
I love that, bro.
Yeah. And so many people get stuck on value, though. They think like they need to come up with a game-changing business idea or introduce this person to like Gary Vaynerchuk or something to get them on their radar. And like, that's totally not the case. Value is built in small layers over time. And there's a whole range. And I think this is what makes relationship building one so intimidating when you start, but once you sort of get the hang of it, it can be a lot of fun because there's so many ways to get in the door. There's so many ways to add value to people. And it could be as simple as, me showing up on your posts every day and just leaving a positive comment. It could be doing some research and sending somebody something. One of the people that I did a podcast with, they knew I liked hot sauce and they ended up sending me hot sauce as a thank you afterwards. And then we ended up, chatting about that. And that was a great lead in. Some people have introduced, me, or I've introduced other people to mutually beneficial connections. Or I've just recognized somebody for something that they've done in the past, if they've had a non-traditional background, or if they've, done something interesting with their career. Maybe they're writing articles online, maybe they're professionally active on Twitter. Just finding ways to get in front of these people where you make it about them, you add value to them. That's how you're going to get in the door, because the whole goal of the outreach and the whole goal of the initial, few touch points when it comes to connecting with them, the goal isn't to get a job. Like, the goal is to get on their radar in a positive way and work to build that relationship so that, down the road, the reciprocation will be there. It's essentially like a bank account where the capital is like, it's like social bucks, if you will. So if you want a referral, or if you want an introduction to Tim or whatever it is, let's say that costs 20 social bucks. Well, if you try to make that withdrawal at the very beginning with nothing deposited, like, you're going to overdraw your account. Like, you haven't earned enough credit, or you haven't made enough deposits to get to that level yet. So you need to start making those deposits, those, leaving a thoughtful comment on Tim's post. All right, that's $1. Doing that 3 times a week, that's $3. And then you work your way up to that $20 level. And then you can make the ask, hey, Tim, we've been chatting for a lot about the future of work over the last couple of weeks. I love the stuff that you're sharing. If you don't mind, would you be up for just a quick call, 15 minutes of your time or something? I just have a couple questions I want to run by you, get your advice. You or I we're going to be so much more likely to do that after this person has taken the time to invest in us and show up positively for us than we are if this is a total stranger, which I'm sure you get people all the time you've never met before that are like, Tim, help me get this job or take 30 minutes.
They're always asking for free stuff.
Exactly.
And I'm like, why are you? I'm like, I share stuff every single day. I share free stuff every single day. What can I do? What more can I share?
Exactly.
Right. It's true. No, Austin, you hit the nail on the head. And it's weird. I think it's the people kind of like lack the empathy for relationship building. I think a lot of people are very just functional, very transactional. And, a lot of people don't understand relationship building is about renewing, caring, right? Nurturing over time, but also being very intentional too, in terms of the type of relationship you want to build. I want to ask you, man, a few more questions and then we'll cap out, man. Why do you think people are so scared to start a hustle like you did with Cultivated Culture, man?
I think it's more of the same of what we just talked about. It's scary to do something that's, starting anything is outside of pretty much all of our comfort zones, except for maybe, like a handful of people. And there's no plan. There's no real roadmap for the most part. There are roadmaps out there, but there's never going to be a roadmap for the exact specific thing that you want to start with your situation and, your limitations and what's in front of you. And so what you have to do is kind of take the leap. And that is terrifying for a lot of people, I think, for a couple of reasons. Most of us, we're risk averse, naturally, right? That's, what humans do. That's how we survive for, thousands and thousands of years as a species. Like, we've avoided risk. And so that is an innate feeling. Like, we don't want to do stuff that puts us in an uncomfortable position. And the hardest part about this whole thing is that when you start something, that's super vulnerable, right? You're putting something out there and it's not going to be a success overnight. Even if you are if you've never started something before, no matter who you are, no matter how much money you have, it's not going to be a success overnight. And at the very beginning, the risk of failure is much, much higher than your chances of success until you start putting those, frameworks and foundation in place and kind of you tip the scales a little bit. So the problem there is, a lot of people are uncomfortable with, one, going down that path, but two, we're worried about what other people think of us, right? And so if I start something on the side and, I'm worried that my friends are going to make fun of me or my family's not going to understand, or, what if work tells me I'm not allowed to do it, or all this other stuff. And we kind of, one, we make up these things in our heads, but two, that happens, right? Like, my friends, when I was starting this business, they still make fun of me for it and they don't really understand what I do. And that's cool. I don't care, because I know what I'm doing and this is something that I want to be doing. And so I'm not worried about it. But I think a lot of people do get worried about that kind of stuff. And so we end up, a lot of us, I think, do want to have our own thing or start our own thing or own something, or even if it's just like, not like, get that all the way. Maybe you just want to make a couple extra bucks on the side or whatever it is. A lot of us want to do that, but the fear of failure and the fear of what other people might think stops us. And when we let that happen, you are essentially kind of letting other people, direct and guide your life, which is the wrong way to approach it. And so the cool part about starting something that I found is, one, I've gotten to see who truly has my back. Like, which of my friends have been there pretty much from the very beginning, being like, I don't know what this is, but I support it because you're doing it and that's cool. That's been really awesome. And then two, your vibe attracts your tribe, right? And so like the stuff that you put out there, you end up finding and connecting with people who are way more aligned with truly what you're after than you ever might have expected. Like, I have so many friends that I've just met online, same as you and I, who are so much more aligned with, what I'm all about and what I care about and what I'm doing than many of the people that I've met just like through, friends or family or work or whatever it is. And it's led to some amazing friendships that I never would have had before if, I hadn't gone out there and built this thing.
Yeah.
And so I think what you have to do is just have the confidence, believe in yourself, let all the criticism or, you know, jokes or whatever roll off your back, go to work every day, put in that consistent, you know, daily effort. You're going to build it to a point where, you know, people start asking you, like some of the people who made fun of me are now coming to me for career advice. And I'm like, oh, that's, you know, it's great to see you again, man. How's it going?
The roles have switched.
Exactly.
Tables have turned. Yeah. So shout out to Adam Begg, who says, hey, man, you got to go out of your comfort zone. Appreciate you so much, Adam, for sharing the awesome comment, man. So, you know, last question, Austin, man. What is one book that you recommend people to read to help them with their careers?
So I got 2 books, and they're not going to be kind of traditional job books. So the first one, I'm sure you probably read The 4-Hour Workweek, and it's kind of cliched at this point. But the reason I still recommend it, and I still cite it as the book that's had the most impact on me, because I think the ethos of the book is essentially just because everybody else is doing something doesn't mean it is the right thing to do, the best thing to do, or the right or best thing for you. And I think it's really interesting that, you know, Tim advocates for this life that's not a 9-to-5 job and you start your own thing. And, you know, some people say it's a get rich quick deal and all that. And that's, you can believe whatever you want to believe. The most important thing for me was seeing that and saying, okay, just because everybody else is doing something doesn't mean it's the right way or the best way to do it. And so when I read it, when I was going through the job search at kind of a low point, and that's what really got me thinking about, you know, why is everybody doing the same thing? Everybody's applying online. Everybody's tweaking their resume. Everybody's doing, you know, what they're told, but it doesn't seem to be working for anyone. Like everybody's frustrated with this process. So how do I go about finding something new, even if it means like breaking the rules in terms of not doing the societal norms or what I'm told to do? That was really, really impactful for me. And that absolutely, you know, changed the trajectory of my life. And so I would absolutely recommend giving it a read, just to, if you need that permission to do stuff that other people, you know, might make fun of you for, or might not be considered normal. Like, this is one of the best books to kind of empower you to take that first step and go do it. The second book I'd recommend, there's a lot of books in this space, but I think people ask me all the time, you know, what's the best skill that you can learn right now, or especially if you're a job seeker? And I would actually say that it's copywriting. So for people who don't know what copywriting is, it's essentially your ability to persuade and sell through the written word. And if you think about the way that we all interact today and just the landscape of society right now, so much more happens through writing than through, you know, the spoken word these days, in the sense that, you know, we're talking to clients and coworkers and all that via email. You know, a lot of times we're making asks and decisions via email, which is in writing. You know, you're applying for a job, you are updating a resume, you're writing a cover letter, you're writing right there, you're on LinkedIn, you're writing, you know, we're texting each other. Like, all this stuff is happening through the written word, but a lot of us don't really think about the impact that the way we word things has. And it makes a huge, huge difference. So for me, a couple of the books I've read, the one I'll recommend, it's called Scientific Advertising by a guy named Claude Hopkins. And it's from a long time ago. It's from, I think, the 30s or 40s. But the cool part is, back then, advertising was all the written word, right? It's in newspapers, it's in publications and magazines. There's no internet, there's no TV or anything like that at the scale that we have today. Yeah. And so all these guys focused all of their time and energy on, how do I make the words that I use impactful? So Ogilvy is like the grandfather of marketing or advertising. And his famous quote is, you know, if you give me $1 to spend on advertising, I'm spending 80 cents on the headline. And that's could not be more true in today's, you know, short soundbite, your 140 character, whatever it is, you know, your one little comment. Like, how do you make that as impactful as you possibly can? So learning how to be a great copywriter, learning how to sell yourself through your writing. And you don't have to be an author. You don't have to be anything else. Like, when you can sell yourself through your writing in an email, like, it can be casual. It's happening every day. And if you're not investing in learning, you know, the effects that the language that you use has on other people, you're missing a huge, huge opportunity. So a lot of the stuff that I've done, the reason I have the job I have today, the reason, you know, you and I met through this platform and this business, is all because of the investments that I made in copywriting. So I hang my hat on that one all day long. And I would absolutely recommend that other people check it out. So the book, again, is Scientific Advertising by Claude Hopkins. There's a bunch of other kind of staple copywriting books out there, but a quick search online will have them pop up. But that's one of the best ones that I found that kind of breaks it down in a simple way.
Yeah, dude, that's powerful, man. Make sure y'all definitely check that out. Scientific advertising, y'all. I love it. I love it. With that said, Austin, where can people find out more about your work, man?
For sure. I mean, LinkedIn is a great spot. I spend a
Mm.
lot of time there. That's where you and I connected. So I'm always around. I'm always posting. I'm trying to reply to people's comments and messages. So feel free to connect with me there. If you do a personalized note, will help me kind of pick you out of the crowd. You can mention Tim or the podcast. And then on top of that, just the site, CultivatedCulture.com. We have a ton of free tools for job seekers. We have a free resume builder, free resume scanner, an email lookup tool. We have a whole bunch of stuff, and it's all free. So feel free to head over, check it out. We have a bunch of guides and a lot of other stuff. So either one, LinkedIn or the site, are both perfect.
Love it. Thank you so much, Austin, for being on the Unleashing the Future of Work A Guide podcast live. If you're interested in being on a future episode of Unleashing the Future of Work, make sure you check out UTFOW.com and please follow Austin's work. He is a wealth of knowledge and a mastermind at what he does. And Austin, thank you so much for finding time to be on the show, today, man. Appreciate you, brother.
You got it, Tim. Thanks so much, dude. Have a good one.
All right, y'all. Talk to y'all soon. Peace, love, and be great.
See ya.